Welcome to our first community conversation for 2023. I am Jadi Savi and I'm elated to welcome today's guest. Angela Prince is someone I truly look up to, and her work and contribution in education is incredible. It's a new year, which means New Year's resolutions. I know that all of you have been looking for ways to inspire your students and bring change that can truly transform the learning and teaching experience. And that is exactly what we will be discussing today. Ways that school leaders, like you, can inspire transformational change. Are you ready? Let's get started. Cue the countdown. Hello, and welcome to today's community conversation. Today, we are discussing how school leaders can inspire transformational change. Together, we will gain insights that will help you lead, inspire, fuel, and empower your learning community. With me today, I have Angela Prince. Angela's an educator, an author, a founder, and a visionary. Welcome, Angela.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Jaritza, for having me today.
Oh, well, it's our pleasure for having you here. Angela, I want to dig directly into your book, but we can't. I really want people to just hear a little bit about your role at Life and also just a bit about yourself.
Well, 30 years in the educational game and um, decided about 4 years ago to branch out on my own and start at Life. I was a principal at a high school and decided that, you know what, I needed to do something more. I needed to do something for Angela. Um, but I still wanted to be in education because it was my passion, is my purpose. And through the pain of leaving the principalship, Ed Life was birthed. And Tupac Shakur is like one of my favorite people. And so, he always talk about the hate you give and how it affects people. And so for me, I was thinking about what about the education we give? And so I was thinking, so what can we do? And so that's how Ed Life was birthed, thinking about what educational decisions do we make to give life to kids? And how do we do that? Through leading, inspiring, feeling empowered. And so that for the last 4 years, I've been traveling the country, helping schools do this work, teaching them how to make decisions, coaching them to make decisions to lead, inspire, fuel, and empower transformations in their school.
Oh, I love this. Angela, I met you while you were actually assisting in school. And
Yeah,
our journey, right, and our journey is very similar. When I was an administrator, I wanted to save everyone. And
yeah,
I was battling between, do I stay because I really want to save everyone, or do I think about the big picture and know that I would have a greater impact if I leave? I can always support, right? Support from afar. And when I met you, like I was immediately drawn to you, right? Your energy is so positive and it's overwhelming with, I'm here to help and support
yeah.
however I can.
That's what it's all about. And I think for me, I've always been this person of service. That's where my joy comes from, is helping others do this work. I have been in the trenches. I have done this work over the last 30 years in schools that have been low performing, schools that predominantly serve Black and Brown youth. And I want to share that knowledge with others to show that our youth are able to meet the standards and our schools can be successful.
And there's nothing like taking advice from someone who has experienced the same things you're currently experiencing, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Angela, I believe you have a video to share with us, right?
Yeah, this video just kind of is from a conference that I did for the first time last summer at the request of people saying you should do a conference. And so it was kind of like the culminating events where I was just kind of reflecting on everyone coming and what this work means.
Okay, well, I'm ready to see this
So
video.
many people trusted the work of Ed Life and trusted that the work that we do could really help them make decisions to lead, inspire, fuel, and empower transformation in their schools. Because that's what we're about. It was amazing to see people liberated and excited to take this work back to ensure that kids are getting a liberating experience um, in their education. I'm going to keep doing this till the wheels fall off because it matters to every single student of color who has been marginalized. It matters to the student who I was as growing up who didn't get that experience. And so it makes me want to continue to ensure that every child has that experience because they all have this right to a quality education. I thought that when I left the school and left the principalship that my gift was kind of gone because I thought it was about students. But I guess the door opening is like, I gotta get to the adults who make the difference for the students as well. That's where the real change is. Teachers leave this profession because it's hard, and with all the constant changes, it doesn't stay the same. But when they don't feel that they have support, it's not gonna happen. Schools are not investing in teachers and sending them out to get knowledge. They're not doing it. And they have the money to do it. It's like, you can't be a prophet in your own land. How are you gonna grow if you don't get your soil tilled and get watered? It's not gonna happen. And that's why teachers are leaving the profession, because they don't feel supported and they feel overworked. And it's not even about the pay. It's not even about the pay because they know they've gone into a service industry. It's about, am I supporting? Are you giving me what I need to do this job effectively? It's the profession that makes all other professions possible. I want this space to be where people can bring their full self. And it's like, it's a safe space not to know. And that's what we need to develop in classrooms. It's a safe space not to know because we're gonna learn it. I think once they leave here, they can't unknow what they know. So they're never the same because of the experience they've gone through. And so even if I don't implement it, I can't unlearn what I just learned. It's always gonna be there. And that right there is enough to start the change.
Wow.
You know what? Just, sitting there watching that, it almost just brings me to tears because I think, that video just shows the passion I have for this work and how important this work is for me to share with others to let them know what is possible.
Angela, this video was so powerful. I took away words like liberation, support, experience, right? To me, everything that fuels me is the fact that I can support Black and Brown communities. I got into this because I wanted to support Black and Brown communities or kids that looked like me, right? And so just watching that, I sat back and I thought about, well, how have the last 13 years in education been for me? What could I do a little bit different? And I took that as almost as like, this is your 3 minutes to reflect.
Yeah, yeah. We all talk about equity and, we went from equal to equity, but I'm like, how do we be liberated? I always think of that picture of the fence. It's like, what if there was no fence? What are the possibilities? And so, that conference was all about having them think about the possibilities, not just from equity, but let's go be liberated. There is no fence, and there's endless opportunities for students.
And that's the only way that students can honestly be successful in education. They have to be liberated, right? They have to
Yeah.
have choice. And so thank you so much for sharing that with us, Angela. Whew, let me bring myself back. We have so many people tuning in right now into the chat, and I just wanted to like take this moment just to give a quick shout out to Mary and Fatima and Seth. who are watching. Michelle, how are you? Anne, how you doing? Andy, how are you? And this is just a reminder for all of you tuning in. Feel free to use the chat for any of your questions and comments. We want to hear from you. And please share your photos, your favorite moments, shout outs, anything really. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and don't forget to tag us at Microsoft Flip. Woo, Angela, that video. But I feel like this is time for us to switch gears. And I
Okay.
would love to hear more about your book, which I have right here.
Book, yes. Found on Amazon, people.
Can you tell us a little bit about your book before I even start digging into questions?
I think this book represents the pain, the passion, the purpose, the essence of who I am and what I want to share with others. Um, I worked with so many principals in coaching them and doing this work, and they was just like, where do I start? How do I start to do this work? Because being a principal of a school that's in need of improvement is a monumental task. And
Mhm.
so for me, it was about providing them just some starting points under those four pillars. You need to lead, you need to inspire, you need to fuel, give people food, and you need to empower them. And so some things that they could do around those, if they could just start with those four areas, then they could start to transform their school. And so that's what the purpose of this book was about, using myself and my experiences, but also giving them things that they need to reflect on to see how they may bring it back into their own setting.
Angela, I read your book twice.
Oh, thank you.
And I feel like I still want to read it again because every time I open it, I take out something else from it that I know I can apply to my professional life,
Mhm.
but also to my personal life.
I've heard that. I've heard a lot of people say this is just not for professional. There's a lot of things that I can take about my own life. How do I do that within myself? And how do I do that with the people within my life?
Right, right. Oh, this book is inspirational. And I have a few questions for you. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's see. Let's go.
Okay. So the first question is, how do you integrate integrity, passion, and justice into pedagogical and professional practices?
Oh, wow. I think it starts with having the courage of your convictions and knowing that you are in this role, in this space to advocate for children. And their parents, their guardians are trusting you to ensure that they have the quality education that they have a right to. And so that's where the integrity comes in. Things will not always be easy, but what will you do when it gets tough? How will you ensure that there's justice for all students within that? And but it's also your passion. You're going to have to be passionate about this work and be willing to, put it on the line to say, I'm doing what's best for kids and bringing all that together. What you do may not be popular. Steve Jobs says, if you want to be popular, go sell ice cream. You have to do what's best for kids and what is right for kids. And that's where their integrity and that's where they're passionate. And that's where the justice comes in. The justice is in the details of this work and getting to the details and ensuring that every detail is about helping kids uh, succeed.
Angela, you just mentioned something that once again had me reflect on my life even as an administrator. You said what happens if things go wrong, right? If things that you prepare for are not going the way that you thought it would be. And
Yeah,
honestly, when I became an administrator, I thought that I had the rule book down pat. I thought that I was going to come in and be able to say, hey, you don't do things this way. Hey, this is how things are supposed to be. Hey, listen to your teacher. And it went total different way, right? The first pillar of your book, you ask folks to reflect on expectations. How would an administrator be able to reflect on expectations?
I think they have to think about what's the vision. What's the vision? What's the mission? What are we striving for? And then once they have a clear picture of that and have shared it with everybody, let's create some expectations that we're all working towards in order to meet that mission and vision. I often say I don't like the word buy in because that uh, connotates that there's a choice. And when we're doing this work and we have a mission and a vision, we have expectations that everybody will excel to. And as a leader, that's where the accountability comes in. How do we coach every single teacher to meet these expectations that will help us reach our mission and vision of what we have for this school, of what we have outlined to help our students succeed? And so that's where we have to really think about the expectations and make sure that they're aligned to what our mission and vision is, and also reflect on how are we holding people accountable to meeting those, and how are we helping them rise to the expectations, because the expectations don't change. We just may have to help people meet them in different ways.
So that's kind of like inspiration, right? And that leads me to my next question. So, how do you inspire a community?
In my book, I said this quote by Maya Angelou. I learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And so part of that inspiration is letting people know you appreciate them, what they're doing. It's being visible. It's getting people the opportunity to know you um, on an intimate level. It is letting them know that you believe in them and their worth and what they're doing. I just remember going into the school that I was in before. It was I had to let the community believe that they deserve this school. They deserve to be a part of this school, and they should be proud of what was happening. And that came with opening the doors and inviting them in, and showing them the great things and letting them know that they was welcome. That inspired them to come back and do more. And that word of mouth was more than any advertisement could have done. And even with the staff, knowing that everybody has a part and everybody has something that they can contribute to the development of the school, to the worth. Everybody is an important piece of the puzzle. And so continuing to inspire those, finding out what they do great and building up on that.
Oh, I'm just like, I feel like I need to take notes because I always see leadership as this trickle down theory, right? That everything is supposed to be trickled down from the administrators. And in your book, you point out love, humility, joy, respect. And those are things that I believe are the components of an effective school community, right? Once
Mhm.
you instill those things, once you bring the love and the joy back into being a teacher, being a paraprofessional, being a secretary, once you have respect for those people that help to guide your school to meet that mission and vision, then you have this community, or what I
Yeah.
like to call a family or a village.
You're only as good as your followers.
Mm.
So if nobody's following you, then who are you leading? And then we also need to recognize that not only are you a follower, but everyone has a leader within them, and just tapping that leader within everyone within the school. I set the vision, I set the mission, I do the expectation, but there are places where you can lead. And in the classroom, you are the leader and your children are your followers. And so just having them think in that way is how can I constantly lead? Because my job as a leader is to create more leaders and develop more leaders, so that everyone is learning to lead, and there's always someone following, and we're passing it down so they're learning how to become a leader as well.
Oh, I agree. Angela, you mentioned in your book head and heart preparation to mindset, lesson plans, professional development, which are some of the things that educators, I mean, in my opinion, we run from, right? Because it takes work, it takes practice. And sometimes we don't have enough time in the day to practice something, right? It's almost like I created this and I just have to put it out because I have 7 periods in a day and I only get 2 breaks. But you talk about mindset, and this is what the next question is about, right? Why does mindset matter?
No, one of the things that there is so much that we look at in the media, on our phones, that really goes into our psyche and we don't realize it, how it impacts us. And so for me, it was about we need to control or kind of change the mindset of what our kids see. If they see positivity, then they will begin to think that way. If our teachers see positivity and see that can do attitude, then they will begin to feel that and think that. And so we have that attitude. We have to have that attitude of we can't, but maybe not yet. But then how do we get to it? And so developing that was important. So in the book, I talk about the leader mindset. So how do we have that mindset of a leader? How do we have that mindset of being the person who inspires people? How do we have that mindset of the person who is a cheerleader, fueling people on, and that mindset to empower people? So those are four distinct mindsets that I think people really need to think about. How do I instill that mindset of a leader within the people, within the students, within the teachers? How do I teach them to want to give more and to learn more and to become a learner themselves? Because those are the mindsets that's going to drive us as individuals, but also help drive the community and the school together. And that positive mindset is what makes the difference.
Once again, I agree, right? When we think about, like, my mom used to always say that the home and the school should never be separate, in the sense of we're both trying to educate the kid together, right? Separate in the sense that it's two physical spaces, but the communities are supposed to always work together to ensure the success of that child, however possible. And growing up, I had this strong community of educators that empowered me, and whether I did right or wrong, they were there to support me. And
Mm-hmm.
so this brings me into like this next question, because I'm thinking about the New Year's resolutions, and we've all created New Year's resolutions for 2023. What advice would you give folks seeking balance in the midst of it all?
I want to go back to this question you just had there for a moment because I think that, our kids spend 8, 10, 12 hours a day at school. And so while it does start at home, the school is a very integral part of that. I mean, you think back to the pandemic when that was missing, and all the harm and the trauma that some of our students went through because we were not there. And so
Mhm.
that's where that homeschool connection happens. I may not be able to control everything that happens at the home, but what I can control is what happens in this building from the time they walk in and to the time they leave. And we have a responsibility to be that home away from home and teach some of um, the morals and things that they can take back with them when they leave the school in the place. So that question was around resolutions. Can you say that again? I just had to make that comment.
I got you. We've all created New Year's resolutions for 2023. What advice would you give to folks seeking balance in the midst of it all?
Oh wow. Balance is a whole thing. People tell me I'm a workaholic, and I was like, I'm not working. I'm doing what I love, so it's not work to me. And I think that when you think about the balance, you have to say, sometimes work will win, sometimes life will win. And you have to like what's important in the moment and you balance it that way. Because if you're constantly trying to say everything has to be a 50-50 balance, a 50-50, then something's always going to lose because you're going to feel like I wasn't there. So there are times when I have to say, oh, this thing in life is more important than work right now. So it's going to get the majority of my time. And so that's my balance. It's 80-20 at this point. It still equals 100. So I'll balance it in that way. And there are things at work that says, I'm going to need to spend more time on this at work. And so my scale goes that way, but I still have a balance because it still comes out to 100%. And so looking at it is not looking at that work life balance is not as 50-50. I have to give one. There's going to be some win and loses in this work. and just make sure that over the long haul, we can say that one didn't get more than the other. It all plays out in the end because sometimes work gets more and sometimes life gets more. And it's going to be up to us to be able to give that to both, and and to give it with a clear conscience and not feel like I'm neglecting one over the other. And knowing that was, that's how that balance works out. That's how I've put it in my mind
Yeah.
to be able to say that I have this work-life balance because I do. I color code my calendar and all this different stuff to make sure that I have some personal stuff on there as well as professional stuff. But some days I have to grind. It's like, okay, this is going to be an 80-hour week for me and 20 hours of play, but there's some weeks where it's all play and very little work, so I create that balance within myself. And as long as I feel balanced and that I'm not foregoing something for myself for work or forgoing work for something of myself, then I create that own balance, regardless to what anybody else thinks and regardless of what it looks like to everyone else. Because people's like, you're working all the time, Angela. And I'm like, I'm having fun.
Yeah.
So it's not all about work to me, even though on the outside it was like you're just working, working, working. When you do what you love, it's no longer work.
And that's how I feel. Was that advice just for me?
That was just for you. You can have that one for free.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Because I really appreciate that advice. And I know there's a lot of educators and administrators who feel the same way, where they're trying to balance out what's a little bit of too much work and not to neglect home, right? As a first time mom, I'm still battling with how do create this experience in the ed tech space where people know who you are, but also I want to be a number one mom. I want to be here for every single moment. And so trying to find a balance of, you're right, so you have to be here 80% of the time, and work has to have 20% of this day. I'm still struggling with that because sometimes I answer emails even when I think I'm supposed to be asleep.
I
So
think it's
thank you.
setting your own boundaries though. You have
Yeah.
to set those boundaries for you, or like with you as a mother, what are the boundaries I want to set so it doesn't feel to me like I'm neglecting my child. So what are the boundaries? What are the cutoffs? What are the things? For me, I would work 10 hours just not to take work home because that was a boundary for me. So yeah, you stay at school to 7 o'clock at night, but when I go home, there is no work. It is done. And so those are the boundaries, and people have to feel like, what are the boundaries I'm going to set for myself in order to accomplish that work-life balance?
Oh yeah, we gotta set some boundaries. And Angela, like I'm too excited over here. Like I'm starting to sweat. But I heard that you have some books to give away.
Yes. So what I want you to do is just go to, flip.com, think it, flip it, add your responses, post your videos, and we're going to choose 5 people to get a free copy of our book.
This has been such a thought-provoking conversation with you, Angela. I thank everyone for joining us in today's community conversation. We truly learned so much together. Angela, thank you for joining us. Do you have any final thoughts that you want to share with everyone watching?
I do, but before I do, I want to tell you about, if you want to learn more about Ed Life and be a part of this movement, because I say Ed Life is a movement, join us this summer in our Equity Deliberation Conference. So I got a little video I want to share with you.
Hi, educators. Are you wondering how do we move from just being equitable to having liberation for all students? The Ed Life Summit has the answers. In our summits, we focus on the need for culturally responsive education, as well as look deeply into systemic racism that continues to limit the education for our marginalized students. We also look at systems changes and what are the changes we need to make to ensure that all students have a quality education. You will have a plethora of discussions. You will brainstorm with your team. You will participate in live equity simulations. This experience is one you do not want to miss. So if you're an educator, not only will you learn, you'll have lots of fun. Our goal is to retreat, relax, and rejuvenate. Hope to see you there.
That sounds like an amazing experience.
It is amazing. It is amazing just for these educators to come together from across the country and learn from each other with a like focus of educating kids and transforming their life. And you know, they leave there knowing how to make educational decisions to lead, inspire, and fuel transformation. And that's the goal.
Yeah.
And so I think my final word to anyone listening today is that you have it in you, and make those decisions to lead, inspire, fuel, and empower. And you will be making changes.
Thank you so much, Angela. If you enjoyed today's discussion, we would love for you and all of you watching to explore Flip. To get started, you are all invited to join our community group where you can find more ideas and good practices from our Flip fam at flip.com/think it, flip it. Now, next month, we have a very special community conversation planned for you in honor of Black History Month. On February 22nd, we will be meeting Dr. Kalisha Graves and Dominique Lester on a journey of discovery through the King Library and Archives to learn about the King Center and its founder, Mrs. Coretta Scott King. Both Dr. Graves and Dominique have dedicated their professional lives to ensuring marginalized voices through history, especially those of Black women, are uplifted and their stories are told. This will be a discussion you don't want to miss, and we will share some incredible resources that the King Center has created so you can leverage it with your classrooms. So that's it for today. I'm your host, Jari Savi Jalwa, and on behalf of Flip and our amazing guests, thank you for choosing to spend your time with us, and we'll see you next time. Bye.